Morning, Jeff.
Morning, Morgan.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Conveniently, you're in the same sight line as all the viewers at home. So hi, that's a good segue. Look at that. Hi, everybody at home. We're glad that you are with us as well on this, continuation of what we're doing. I'm gonna orient myself this way, if that's okay. If you're watching at home, there's no one over here, so I'm kind of,
The church is out of bounds.
There we go. I'll just kind of move that. Is that good? I can just do that. Because if I speak this way, what am I doing? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. I had the privilege last week of speaking at the baccalaureate for Colton High School, and it was right out here. If you weren't aware, it was right out here on the, in the parking lot, the lawn, and everything like that. And we had a few kids show up, and the pastors in the area showed up, and me for some reason. And as we were standing there and speaking and everything, it occurred to me that everybody was giving these great advices and good words for the graduates and things like that. And as I was speaking, I had one thing in mind, and about when I was done, God kind of did the thing that sometimes He does, and went, "Hey Jeff, you could have probably also gone this way with this." And I was kind of like talking and thinking at the same time, which for a man is really difficult because science, the two lobes of our brain are actually severed at some point in your utero. Ladies, yours stays intact, so you're able to do multiple things at once, just how my wife can. Answer emails and phone calls and watch sports at the same time and tell me what's going on, which is crazy, but man, we can't do that. Anyway, so I was unable to respond, of course, to God, but God was prompting me during that time and saying, "Hey Jeff, you really could have talked about patience, because you weren't a patient person when you got done with high school." And first I went, "Thanks, God." And then I went, you're actually kind of right. I should have talked a little bit about patience, because as the philosopher Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses said once, we could all use just a little patience. And that man certainly could have, as he stormed off stage for everything from a hangnail to his microphone not working. We could all use a little patience. My patience has involuntarily been stretched throughout the years. And that's kind of how patience grows with us as humans, right? As you age, your patience kind of expands a little bit, so that by the time, the hope would be that by the time you get to the point where you're mentoring people and things like that, you're not like a bad doctor. You don't have any patience, you know what I mean? Bad doctors, no patience. Sorry. But I've noticed that my patience over the years, God will involuntarily, besides what I say, and do, things get stretched. And it gets stretched when I don't want it to. And that's the operative nature of growing your patience. For example, children. When I try and, during this whole COVID thing, I have kind of a window between about 9 and 10. When we're done with breakfast, I'm done making breakfast, feeding Jack. Usually Carrie Ann is cleaning up after the explosive mess that Jack will make of breakfast. And I take him outside, and our new thing to do is we spend a little bit of time together. There's a couple times in the day where, Carrie Ann's either busy with work or something like that, and Jack and I get to spend some daddy father time. And usually it's really special. In the morning, though, it's really interesting because this is right before his morning nap, so he's getting a little bit on the edge of, things might, get him cranky or not. And he's also very adventurous. And in the morning, everything is, I really hate this word, but it's the only word I could come up to explain this. In the morning, everything outside is slightly moist. Slightly moist. And when we go outside, we need his rain boots, and I always put his rain jacket on because inevitably, even though he can walk, he decides that walking will not get him there fast enough. He has to run. And when he runs, he gets mouths full of dirt. And so every morning, without fail, he comes out there, he's got his pajamas on, I throw on a coat or something like that. We go run around in the yard, and he plays and things. Now, you got to understand, we have a lot of space that is taken up by grass. Grass is wonderful. It even wicks away dirt. Like if you fall on grass, you will not get hurt. If you come inside after rolling around in the grass, your mom may just notice, you're slightly moist. But other than that, hate that word. But other than that, sorry, hate was a bad term. Other than that, though, grass is a good thing. Grass is a good thing to run around in. But there is this little tiny area at all the edges of our yard that is taken up by dirt. And my son will find it all the time. I literally have taken him and put him in the middle of the yard, surrounded by toys and a slide. And he will gravitate toward the dirt on the other end. And the kid moves so fast that I'll, go, oh, my shoe is untied. And I'll go down and I'll tie my shoe. And in the time that it takes me to tie my shoe, roughly 7 seconds, I don't know, I'm pretty good. I look up and Jack is on the other side of the yard and he's shoveling mouthfuls of dirt into his mouth. And I'm just standing there going, no, and running after him and things like that. Patience is needed in the morning. And, oftentimes I fail at having patience in the morning with Jack. I'll take him and I'll hose his little hands off with the hose and I'll say, okay, put him right back in the middle of the yard. You're good, right? No, now he wants to play with the hose. I'm coming around playing with the hose and things like that. Jack has made my patience stretch so much because after he goes down for his nap at 10 in the morning, I'll think back over our morning and I'll get on what's called office hours on Google Meet and, talking to kids and things like that. But if no one shows up, it's just me and my thoughts. And I'm just thinking through how Jack went through his morning, and I'm thinking to myself, and I'll go, I didn't have any patience for him this morning. He wanted to play and explore and things like that, eat mouthfuls of dirt, and his dad did not exhibit patience. And this week, as I was thinking about patience, I remembered to myself, the thing that patience gives birth to is love. If you don't have patience, you inevitably cannot have love. Think of the times that you had to get ready in the morning and something has happened with another person at your household. Wife, husband, kids, you're on a time schedule, you got about 10 minutes or something like that, and inevitably something goes wrong with one of them, and you go, what's good? All of a sudden, love goes out the window. And thinking back to myself, the times when Jack has ended up inevitably in the dirt, I haven't shown love. I have been strict dad and gone, what are you doing? Why are you in the dirt? And my patience goes away. And then later I think he's in the dirt because he's a little boy. And in the moment, he was smiling and looking at me for support and going, Daddy, isn't this cool? Look at all this brown stuff. Why are you even putting me in the green stuff? And I could have been there with him, and I wasn't. And his face at the time, it almost makes me tear up to think about this. He didn't understand. Why is Daddy angry at me? I don't get it. Patience is needed. And today I want to talk to you about one of the things that Jesus did best. Jesus had patience. And my goodness, I could have, and we're in John 14, but I could have gone to several stories. I was in between all of these stories. I was that woman at the well, right? Jesus confronts a woman is at a well, and Jesus is talking to her about her faith and about her family. She starts lying to him, and I just think about Jesus going, oh my goodness, why are you lying to me? Don't you understand who I am? And trying to explain to her about living water. That required a lot of patience. When he met Nicodemus in the middle of the night, I'm guessing since Jesus was a human, he probably needed sleep in the middle of the night, but this religious leader wants to come and talk to him about rudimentary things. So Nick at Night, first episode of Nick at Night. Religious leaders, every time he has to deal with a single religious leader, they're constantly asking him questions that they already know the answer to try and get him to slip up. That must have taken so much tremendous patience. I can't even believe what he went through there. And then finally, I came to his own disciples. And that is where I stuck. And I went, you know what? To have these guys follow you around for 3 years and to see miraculous things, see people raised from the dead and healed and their sight restored and hearing restored and cripples walking and things like that, people fed out of nothing. And then not to, at the end, realize who they were talking to. All of a sudden, at the end of the entire thing, when Jesus gets to the punchline and goes, okay, here's what you need to do. The question that they ask him is, wait, hold on. Wait, so you're not staying? And that's where I decided to be, because in my mind, if I were Jesus at that point, my patience would have gone out the window. My ability to love in in that time would have gone out the window. The whole ministry would have been thrown away because I would have stormed out in John 14. So we're in John 14. In my Bible, the caption is Jesus comforts his disciples. It says this in verse 1, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going." Jesus probably, now, you have to kind of step back from these kind of situations, because there are certain situations where the divide between what separates God and man with Jesus kind of becomes a little blurry. It becomes a little bit unstitched. And, people have kind of discussed this at length, especially biblical scholars, and the best they can come up with is that if God has the ability to know everything, to know every outcome, he also may have the ability to not know every outcome. And the ability to not know every outcome plays really well into this, because Jesus actually is able to show a lot of love and support and patience to these disciples. Because the next thing that's said to him is kind of astounding. In verse 5, Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Now, as I read this, I was sitting there thinking to myself, of course I've read this story about a million times, but I was thinking to myself, as Jesus, being with a bunch of guys that have followed me around for 3 years, I've explained this to them over and over and over again, and finally when I say, okay, now the time has come, all of a sudden Thomas says, "Whoa, hold on, where are you going?" And I kind of wonder if Jesus had a little vein stick out on his head. But then I know that he didn't, because Jesus, the ultimate shepherd, has ultimate patience. And the analogy of sheep and shepherd really plays in, because sheep, as you know, don't exactly stay in the same place all the time. They require someone who has an intimate knowledge of them and intimate patience with all of them, and is constantly in the mode of teacher. So Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Jesus answered, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." Philip said, "Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us." Jesus answered, "Don't you know me, Philip, even after I've been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Don't you believe that I am the Father, and that the Father is in me? The words that I say to you do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say I am the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing. And they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." Jesus is constantly in teacher mode. Even when two questions show up that, threaten to overturn the entire thing, that threaten to go and say, "Wait, teacher, I know this is the test, but what class is this?" And I'm constantly reminded of myself, because that is constantly me. When this whole thing started, my job kind of changed. And I say kind of changed, but what I mean is my job really changed as a teacher. All of a sudden, we were told that the thing we were hired for, our personal skills relating to kids, mentoring and nurturing these young learners and getting them to buy into their own learning, we were told, throw that out the window, because that's done now. Now, you are going to be a systematic computer programmer who's basically going to organize educational programming for kids sitting behind computer screens. That's what you're going to do. You're going to have to learn new apps. You're going to have to learn new ways of conferencing with people, with talking to people, with mentoring with people, and maybe 20% of your students will really respond as they did in the classroom. The rest of which are working with things at home, or they have something going on where they can't access the material, or they can't access the material at all. They don't have Wi-Fi, so they're going to have packets, and you won't see those packets at all. You'll ask for them, but you won't get them back. You have no idea how these kids are going to respond. This entire year is going to be different, and your job is totally, will never be the same, basically, ever again. You will never think about it the same way. All of a sudden, just in March. And at the time, ironically, I wasn't sick with COVID. I actually had lost my voice. Because I wasn't taking care of it and things like that. And I just overextended myself in the past few days doing a bunch of introductory stuff for units and things. So I woke up the day this happened and my voice was totally gone. So I came in the morning and I got a substitute and things like that. And everything was good. I went home and I took a nap and I drank a lot of fluids and things like that. Slowly my voice started to recover. And all of a sudden my phone started blowing up with texts because we were scrambling to try and do this. We were scrambling to try and refit basically the entire year worth of stuff, and nothing really fit. I saw teachers give up and then have to restart, then give up again, and then have to restart. It was a constant relearning. It was patience at a level that I've never experienced patience ever being needed before. But the main place that I saw this is something that I actually wanted to change in my own life. You'll notice that in Scripture, especially in this passage, Jesus gives long-winded answers to a lot of things in our modern perspective, right? When Philip says, Lord, show us the Father and that will be enough for us, Jesus could have instantly answered this was, Philip, you see, my Father and I, the Father meaning God, I am a man, kind of one. That's what's going on here. He could have said that, but instead he decided to make an object lesson out of it. But this is how Jesus teaches. He asks questions, which really allows people to talk at you, and then he responds with parables, which is a pretty long-winded story. He does things which in our 21st century minute-by-minute attitude would be crazy. If Jesus came in this time period, he would have to completely refit everything like we did as teachers. Things would have to be clocked out minute by minute. And I noticed that the same thing is true for learners. Face-to-face interaction. If you're able to talk about something and talk through a problem with somebody, even over the phone with vocal inflections and things, have you ever noticed that those problems resolve themselves in minutes? Whereas, let's say that someone's arguing, they bring up something over email or maybe Facebook or something like that. How long did that problem take to resolve itself? I'm guessing it's multiple days, probably, maybe weeks. We had problems that resolved over email in about a month. At one point, there was one problem we were working toward in about a month. It took over email of just back and forth and back and forth. And then we decided that we would solve all problems. If there was anything that came up that was a roadblock for teachers, we would get on Google Meet and solve it face to face, right, over the computer. The result was streamlining, and it was crazy. All of a sudden, if you had a problem with somebody, not at a personal level, but even at a professional level, all of a sudden those things resolved in minutes. Because our ability to dehumanize someone over text message, Facebook, Instagram, social media, or email is outstanding. If you read something, and there's studies that have been done on this, if you read something that someone has written, you are more likely to critique it as you read it. Whereas if you were to hear a recording of someone saying that, or if they came up to you and said, hey Tracy, I believe this, Tracy would most likely be willing to reconcile himself and go, you know what, Geoff just has a different perspective because he's been in different places. It's kind of crazy how we're able to connect with each other on a human and spiritual level, face to face. But that also requires a heck of a lot of patience. I've had to learn a ton of patience throughout this year, and actually I started praying a prayer. And I could keep going with this message, but in order to keep things short, I want to take you to the dangerous prayer of the day. Now, dangerous prayers, as we talked about before, are prayers that get you into the mindset where you can be more like Christ. And today, talking about patience, I could have talked about this probably at length for about an hour, but instead of doing that, I wanted to have you pray the prayer that I've been praying for the past month to give me the patience to do my job. And it's found in Isaiah 6, which I think I bookmarked. I hope I bookmarked it. I did. This is in my Bible. It's the caption is Isaiah's commission. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and threshold shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken from the tongs of the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned for. When I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go with us? I said, Here I am, send me. I want to repeat that last part there, in verse 8. Kind of put yourself in the location that he's in right now. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And I said, Here I am, send me. Why is this a dangerous prayer, you might ask yourself? If you pray, Here I am, send me, you are throwing away your watch. You're throwing away the things, and for me it's my watch, throwing away the things in life that make us stay on a perfect, harmonious schedule. Saying, Here I am, send me, is a reaction that he's having to being in the absolute presence of God, feeling totally unworthy of it, and then having all of his sins cleansed. That's what's happened to us. Why do we not have that as our regular prayer? If you pray, Here I am, Lord, send me, God will send you. He will send you to whoever he needs to have you speak to them that day. He will send you down some road when you wanted to get down this road. Your destinations will change, your hours of work will change, and your schedule will no longer be a problem. God will take care of all those things. The schedule that's always at the back of your mind. If you're me, I need to get to this place, talk to these important people, and then I need to leave at this time and get jacked down for a nap at this time, and then I need to get back to work at this time. That's gone. Completely gone now that I started praying, Here I am, Lord, send me. And yes, I am late to things. Yes, I am. I am late to my office hours. I am late to things I have to do with work. But they get done. All of those things get done. God allows that to happen. And he blesses me with quiet and solitude exactly when I need to get things done. But now when Jack plays around in the dirt, Daddy doesn't scold him for it. I get down and I play with him. And that is called God sending me. There's been times when a kid has had a problem that's not even school related and just wants to talk about stuff during office hours, which I need to be using to grade papers, and I need to be talking with kids about homework. The main thing that happened with office hours is that kids didn't want to talk about school. They wanted to talk to a human. They wanted to talk to someone outside their family because that's all they've been communicating with. It's been like, get up, do schoolwork, talk to my family, maybe they're at work, maybe I talk to no one at all, go back to sleep. Kids wanted to see people. And here I am, Lord, send me. Helped me to see them as humans again. And not as a system, not as everything needs to fit into this box. These were real people and real humans. And finally, I had gotten back to what God wanted me to do. So here I am, Lord, send me, is our dangerous prayer for today. And if you pray that prayer, for me, I've been doing it for 30 days. I've been doing it for 30 days, And I have experienced patience that has really taken over my soul at a soul level. I've experienced rest. I've also experienced love come back into so many places in my life, because without patience, you can't have last week's virtue of Jesus, which was peace. And without both of those things, you can't have love. Let's pray. God, I pray that you would send us. That you would send us into the homes of the broken, into the places where we need to go, things that don't fit our schedule, things that make us uncomfortable, and things that constantly push us to be more like you, God. I pray that you would send us to all those places, and that it wouldn't make sense at the time, that it would contradict our agenda, that it would contradict the places we need to quote-unquote go. But God, I pray that you would send us to those who would need us.